The US is thinking about letting Ukraine use its weapons to strike Russia, even if it enrages Putin, report.
Here's a summary of the article.
The US has barred Ukraine from striking targets in Russian territory with its arsenal of US weapons. The New York Times on Thursday reported that US officials were debating rolling back the rule, which Ukraine has argued severely hampers its ability to defend itself. The proposed U-turn came after Russia placed weapons across the border from northeastern Ukraine and directed them at Kharkiv, the Times reported, noting that Ukraine would be able to use only non-American drones to hit back. Analysts say the policy shift could hand Ukraine a crucial advantage in fighting Russia's attacks, using US weapons to strike troop gatherings and Russian planes that carry glide bombs. Throughout the war, the US has incrementally increased its support for Ukraine, handing it more sophisticated weapons. Ukraine has several times ignored US warnings about potentially escalating the conflict, such as by attacking the Crimea Peninsula or launching long-range drone attacks deep inside Russia itself. Russian President Vladimir Putin menaced the West with nuclear weapons over its support for Ukraine and announced new nuclear exercises near Ukraine's border this week.
This post received a score of 15,000, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Let him enrage, what is he gonna do? Nuclear blackmail? Even Kim Jong-un realized, this is getting old.
Agree. Quit with the half measures. Ukraine should be allowed to do whatever they need to in order to push Russia out.
There's no reason not to let them. Ukraine has quite literally been invaded by a hostile dictator. Why are they not allowed to do more than defend within their own territory? This conflict isn't really going to move forward until Ukraine is allowed to really push forward and make it hurt for Putin.
In case this was a serious question, the reason not to let them is that if they can strike into Russia, they will almost certainly disrupt fuel production even more, which spikes the price of oil, which affects the world economy and the outcome of the US election, which affects the war in Ukraine.
Russia and Saudi Arabia didn't hesitate to collude and force high oil prices on Biden in 2022. One might consider the effective outcome of lessening Russia's ability to wage war and reducing its income.
Good. It's well past time. It's wild to invade a sovereign nation and then get outraged when that nation fights back. The day Russia invaded Ukraine, strikes anywhere in Russia become both valid and necessary.
This is long overdue. If Russia can lob North Korea's sanctioned missiles into Ukraine, then certainly Ukraine should be allowed, no, encouraged to strike back with Western weapons.
Optimistically speaking, they're hopefully trying to decide on rules of engagement for how to use these weapons on Russian soil. The objective for Ukraine isn't to conquer Russia, it's to destroy the Russian military equipment staged there. Of course, the Russians can simply start staging further back. This is just a simple example. You'd want to be careful with how these weapons are used by the Ukrainians, though, because if a US missile hits a Russian family of 4 in a town somewhere, it will be bad for everyone.
Ukrainian civilians are dying daily. Russian propaganda is already pervasive, so this is hardly a reason to avoid targeting their military and critical infrastructure.
Russian propaganda is already pervasive, but I believe it will hit different for Russian citizens when US weapons will be used on their soil. Even if Russians hate their own government, people sometimes get primal about defending their homeland. I do agree it needs to happen. Ukraine cannot win defensively under the existing rules. Western officials need to decide if they want to commit fully to Ukraine or not, and that means accepting the risk that comes with it.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.